Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I want you to look at this picture. One cookie, right? One of any yummy name, as it happens, any yummy name whatsoever, can combo into full Azamina combo, full yummy combo, and full chaos ROLAD combo, right? Any yummy name is full light and darkness, full Azamina, full yummy. Not only that, any Azamina card, the Azamina starters, they get you to full Azamina combo, full yummy combo, full chaos combo, and and the chaos starters all also combo, or the good chaos starters also all combo into yummy and Azamina. Let me show you how. So let me show you how any yummy name goes full combo for all three of the engines, and it is any yummy name. I'm not cheating by starting with marshmallow, because even if you start with cookie, for example, which A is a normal summon and B doesn't do anything, that still gets you everything I'm going to show you. The reason I'm starting with marshmallow is because it's the only yummy name, realistically, we're going to play three of in the deck. So you're actually more likely to draw the marshmallow than you are any of the other yummy names, because Cupsy, of course, is now at 1 after the ban list. So what we'd do is we'd special summon the marshmallow, we link it off for the Snatchy, activate the trigger effect of the Snatchy to get the minion. We activate the minion, bringing back the marshmallow, and then what we do now is turn both of those into a Cupsy effect, and I like to get Cookie and Cupsy. The reason I like Cookie over the Lollipop is because Cookie is a pop during their turn. Of course, if you prefer the shuffle of the Lollipop, you'd go for Lollipop. Cupsy is the only bit that's non-negotiable here. If you didn't draw Cupsy, then you have to grab Cupsy at this point. We're going to show you this like it's a kind of one card combo version. So we discard the Cookie. Now what we do is we special summon the Cupsy, activate its trigger effect to get a copy of the surprise. We activate the surprise, bringing back the marshmallow. Marshmallow triggers, bringing back the surprise, so it's free, right? Now what we're going to do is we turn one of these bodies into a Linkaribo. It doesn't matter which. And then we're going to turn both of those into a Lollipop. Activate the trigger effect of Lollipop. And what we're going to do is bring back two bodies, two yummy names, and it doesn't matter which you bring back here. From here, we'd turn Lollipop plus one of the names into a Metal Marcher, activating its trigger effect to bring back the Lollipop. Now we'd go Lollipop plus the other name into a Starham. We activate the trigger effect, pitching a blank, to bring back the Lollipop specifically. Now from here, this really is combo slop at its finest, right? You've been warned. So you're going to go Metal Marcher plus Starham into Reselia, trigger effect, sending the minion to search for a copy of Azamina LZ, activate the effect in hand to special summon itself. And now what we do is we activate the effect on field to fuse, because we can use itself, an illusion, plus Reselia, a light spellcaster, to hard make the Reseliago, which doesn't really come up very often. Trigger effect of Reseliago to get ourselves Haunted. And then what we do, we've got a level 2 tuner and we've got a level 6 dark. We can make a Crimson King, put it in the EMZ, you'll see why later. So we can make a Crimson King, trigger effect, gets a copy of Crimson Call, activate Crimson Call to search for Grifo. So now what we've got is we've got everything we need to go full Azamina combo. We've got everything we need to go full Light and Darkness combo. We've got Cupsy on field with obviously all the yummy names, the Snatchy, Engrave. We've got the Yummy Surprise. So from here, the way I would do this is commit to the Azamina side of things to try and force out an Ibiru if they're holding onto it. So we activate the Wanted. Wanted gets a copy of the Witch. Activate the Witch, pitching another blank. Trigger effect of Diabellstar is going to set a copy of Deception. We're going to banish Diabellstar. Trigger effect of the D mod to get Gaze of Timaeus. Now, Gaze of Timaeus is optional. I think there's an argument for siding it, going first only, can be a brick. But if we're playing 3 copies of the Witch, we're playing 3 copies of Wanted, then we do actually have ways to get rid of bricks if we open them in our opening hand, because we're effectively running 6 cards in our deck that require a discard in order to play the game. So I don't think running Gaze of Timaeus is actually the end of the world. Side it out, go into a second if you want to. But what I would do from here is activate Deception, tributing the D mod. Now I'm going to get a copy of Debtors, and you'll see why, right? I do think this actually makes more sense in this version of the deck. Now, normally what I'd do here is we would make the Gaze of Timaeus, or sorry, we would activate the Gaze of Timaeus now to hard make the Dragoon, but we're just going to press pause on that, and I'll show you why. Because from here, we can activate the Griffo, set the Mind Shuffle, activate the Mind Shuffle, and activate this card's effect now. Now that's important because this does actually play around Ghost Ogre. Griffo beats Ghost Ogre on the Mind Shuffle, whereas if you set, well, you actually place it face up with the Black Chaos way of getting to Mind Shuffle, then that does actually lose to Ghost Ogre. And that's important because that might be something that affects your ratios, basically. Griffo is a quick effect. It can beat Droll, it can beat Ghost Ogre. The Black Chaos, on the other hand, loses to Droll and it loses to Ghost Ogre. So something to consider. Now what we do here is we add a copy of the Skull Archfiend of Chaos, and then we're going to send Skull Archfiend of Chaos to the graveyard. It will trigger, sending Light and Darkness Ritual, which is cost, so now they have a chance to respond. And we will get a copy of the Magician of Black Chaos. We will activate Light and Darkness Ritual, bringing Skull Archfiend of Chaos back to hand. Got all these cards in hand, by the way. And then what we'll do is we will activate Light and Darkness Ritual to special summon our Black Chaos, banishing the Griffo, which is the entire cost, of course, because of its effect. And so now we get the Magician of Black Chaos on the field, activate its trigger effect, and you can add back what you want. Realistically, you're going to add back the Light and Darkness Ritual at this point. If you used a Call by the Grave along the way, obviously you can add that as well, right? Or add that instead, rather. So from here, still ridiculous amount of cards in hand. What we would do is we would activate the effect of Skull Archfiend of Chaos. Now you have to shuffle back a card that mentions the Light and Darkness Ritual. So let's pick the Griffo just to tick that box. Then from there, what you shuffle back doesn't actually matter. We're not doing this because we want the Griffo to be shuffled back. We're doing it just because we want the body of the Skull Archfiend. So let's shuffle back the Griffo, and we will shuffle back. It doesn't matter, right? Let's just shuffle back our 2 Charmies just to show it really doesn't matter what you're shuffling back here. What matters is the body. So we get the body, and then we turn those 2 bodies into an SP Little Knight. We won't be activating the trigger effect, of course. Now from this point, what you could do is make a Dragoon, make an Ilia Sylvia, so that's 2 Omni Negates on top of full Yummy combo, and your Mind Shuffle is live because during the draw phase, you will be grabbing the other ritual, right? The Black Luster ritual. So what you could do is pass turn with a Dragoon already on field, an Ilia Sylvia already on field. You pass turn like that. The issue with that is Sphere Mode, Dark Rule No More, etc. will absolutely ruin your day. And it's not a particularly layered board. So what you could do instead, now bear in mind Nibiru is not a particularly popular card right now, even if they did kind of, maybe they were waiting with the Nibiru. They think, oh, I'm not going to activate Nibiru just yet. I'm going to wait till they try and bring out the Ilia Sylvia. I'm going to wait until they try to use Gaze at Timaeus, right? Basically going to wait until the last possible moment, and I will chain Nibiru in response to them trying to bring out the Omni-Negate, which is a realistic scenario, by the way. At this point, you've got Little Knight plus, so Little Knight basically banishes itself plus the Cupsy, so that's doing nothing. Black Chaos is completely unaffected anyway, so, you know, good luck there. So what you could do instead, unless you needed the draw, so you could send Deception with Azamina Debtors, bring out the Ilia Sylvia, and then your Wanted in Graveyard is live if you want to get yourself an additional draw. But let's say you don't need the draw, right? You've got 6 cards in hand. What about if we just set Gaze of Timaeus, we set Azamina Debtors, and we set Yummy Surprise? Even if they open Harpy's Feather Duster, it doesn't matter because this protects your back row anyway. So now, what if we pass turn like this instead? So we pass turn, draw phase. Would we like to activate any effects? And here's the thing. We're going to activate the Mind Shuffle. We're going to add to hand our Blackluster Soldier, pitch in a blank. So we've got our little rotation going on here with the Mind Shuffle. We've got our Surprise face down. We've got Cupsy. We've got SP Little Knight. We've got all of our Yummy names in rotation in the graveyard. And we've got 2 Omni-Negates basically just ready and waiting. So what you could do is wait for your opponent to try and play into the board a little bit. Because let's face it, whatever they activate first, it's never the most important card anyway. Like that's not how it works. And what you can do is, rather than leaving yourself open to a kaiju, to a sphere mode, etc., etc., what if instead you just left things in reserve? Wait for them to try and make some plays, and then when you think, right, okay, now I'll bring out my Dragoon. More things happen, right? They make more plays. So with standby phase, obviously going to summon Kozaki. So things have happened, and you think, right, I've lost my Dragoon, I've had to use my Little Knight, I've done some of my Yummy stuff. Now I'm going to bring out my Ilia Sylvia. And so doing things this way, what you're creating is a much, much more layered end board. And I do think that's important going into this new format because kaijus are becoming increasingly popular. I don't know if you've seen that new kaiju card yet that just got announced. I think it's single-handedly one of the most broken going second cards I have ever read in my life, by the way. Definitely go and check that out if you haven't. So layering your board, having interactions in the back row as well as in your monster zones, I think is actually going to become, or it is already very important, will become even more important once that new card drops. And remember, of course, the Black Chaos is protecting your back row anyway. So passing turn with loads of cards in the back row isn't actually scary anymore if you've got Black Chaos on your field. Let me show you how we start with the Diabellstar, or our Azamina side of things, and do something very, very similar to this. So let me show you how we would start with the Azamina engine and still go full combo. Starting with Wanted is actually a little bit better because it does help us to play around hand traps. You would activate this in the draw or standby phase to make sure you don't get trolled. Search for Diabellstar, and now as we move into the main phase, you can special summon the Diabellstar. Can't be impulsed, remember. Now, at this point, because we used Wanted in the draw phase, our D-mod is live. So if this gets hit with an Imperm or a Veiler, you can turn it into a D-mod. And then that's another card they have to try and hand trap. If they also hit that with an Ash, a Veiler, etc., they've just used 2 hand traps to stop, effectively stopping Diabellstar. because we used wanted in the draw phase, so they've just used 2 hand traps to stop Diabellstar / Dmod. You haven't normal summoned yet though. So if you do that, they burn 2 hand traps, and you've got another engine piece in hand, you've got a Yummy name in hand, they basically hand loop themselves for 2, and you just go full combo anyway. If you didn't open wanted, that's fine, as long as Diabellstar resolves, because you can just set Deception, flip Deception over, and now your Demod's live. So we banish the Witch to summon the Demod and the EMZ, remember? And we're going to use that to grab a Magician's Souls. Activate the effect of Magician's Souls to send Black Chaos to the graveyard. We will be adding this back to hand later. We're going to special summon the Souls. And now we're going to turn a £100 card into a Gravity Controller. You'd love to see it. Turn both of these into a Cupsy, using its trigger effect to get Cupsy, and then it actually doesn't matter which you get in this particular moment or instance. Let's imagine we value the shuffle of the Lollipo, and then we're going to discard the Lollipo. We're going to special summon the Cupsy, trigger effect to get the surprise, turn it into a Snatchy, trigger effect to get the minion, activate minion, bringing back either name, doesn't really matter which. I'm going to set the surprise just so I stop getting the prompt while I'm trying to talk through this. Now from here, we're going to turn these 2 into a Lollipo. It'll look quite similar for a bit until it's not, so just bear with me, because a lot of it will be very similar to the last combo once you get to this point. Once you learn this particular loop, it's actually a very easy deck to combo with. So we will go Metal Marcher, trigger effect to get the Lollipo. We will go Star Ham, trigger effect, pitching a blank to bring back the Lollipo, specifically, very important. Now we will make the Reselia, trigger effect, free send of the minion to get Azamina LZ, activate effect in hand to special summon itself, and then we will use its effect on field to hard make the Resiliago. Trigger effect of Resiliago to get the Azamina Debtors, because we started with Azamina, didn't we? So make sure you're grabbing the Debtors here rather than another copy of Wanted, because that would be quite bad. Now we make Crimson King using these 2. We use a trigger effect of Crimson King to get Crimson Call, activate Crimson Call to get a copy of Griffo. Now in this particular instance, let's imagine we wanted to use Azamina Debtors during our turn and pass on the Omni-Negate, because you can special summon the Ilia Sylvia, sending the Deception, which sets you up for a draw later down the line. So if you're going first in a game 3 scenario, maybe you've sided in some particularly nasty going first tech, and you just want that one extra draw to see if you can draw into it. You thin your deck quite a lot as well with this combo, so you do it at the end in the hope that it's a greater chance. You wouldn't draw until the end because it's a greater possibility of drawing into your silver bullets that you've sided in, because obviously by that point your deck will be quite thin indeed if you haven't already drawn it. So what we would do is we would activate the Griffo. We're going to set the Mind Shuffle, activate the Mind Shuffle. Remember, this plays around Ghost Ogre, and we will add to hand the Skull Archfiend of Chaos. We're going to send that to the graveyard. It will trigger, sending the Light and Darkness Ritual. We will add to hand the Black Chaos. Now what we would do is we would activate the Light and Darkness Ritual, but we'd add the Black Chaos to hand instead. We're going to activate the Ritual spell, special summoning the Black Chaos, banishing the Griffo as the entire cost, special summon, trigger effect, adding back, obviously it's up to you, but you're probably going to grab back the Ritual. Now what we would do is we would special summon the Skull Archfiend of Chaos, because you can summon this from your graveyard. So that's why you can just add back the Black Chaos that you dumped earlier, because you can just summon this from your graveyard and still get the additional body all the same. So we're going to shuffle back a Griffo, and then just to show that it really doesn't matter what else we do, we will shuffle back 2 Charmies and turn the Crimson King and the Skull Archfiend of Chaos into an SP, no trigger. And so when you do it this time round, you don't have the Dragoon, but you do get the Black Chaos in hand instead of the Dragoon. And if you look at the deck, less than half of our deck is remaining. So now you would activate the Wanted to draw into hopefully what is one of your silver bullets. And so you've still got 5 cards in hand, right, after doing all of this. And just like last time, you pass turn, activate effect. Yes, we're going to activate the Mind Shuffle. We're going to add the Blackluster Soldier. We're going to pitch a blank. And you've got basically the same board as last time, minus the Dragoon, but you do have the Black Chaos in hand for follow-up. Now, in this particular instance, let's imagine we drew a Griffo and then a load of blanks. But you don't want to end on a Mind Shuffle, basically. Your opponent's playing a deck that you know can beat the Mind Shuffle loop, and you want to go into Yummy instead. What you can do is we activate during the standby phase our Griffo. We set the Mind Shuffle, activate the Mind Shuffle, and what we're going to do is add the Skull Archfiend, pitch the Skull Archfiend, which will trigger, dumping the Ritual and adding to hand the Black Chaos. We move into the main phase. We activate Light and Darkness Ritual, and we add back the Griffo rather than the Skull Archfiend. Stay with me now. We normal summon Griffo, and we turn it into a Linkuriboh. Now we activate the Light and Darkness Ritual, summoning the Black Chaos by pitching the Griffo as the entire cost. Activate the trigger effect, getting back the Light and Darkness Ritual. Turn it into a Demod, activating the trigger effect to search for Magician's Souls, because we haven't opened any Yummy in this particular line, right? If you had opened any Yummy monsters in this particular line, you wouldn't be doing this route in the first place. So if you're doing this route, it's because you haven't opened any Yummy names, which means you have to get the Magician's Souls. But then what you can do is activate Magician's Souls. Doesn't really matter what you pitch. And then from here, you have 2 options. You can either send Mind Shuffle and Light and Darkness Ritual to the graveyard to draw 2, or you can leave Mind Shuffle on field, because that will get a banish during your opponent's turn when you use this to search for the Blackluster Soldier. Because from here, you can turn Linkuriboh and Magician's Souls into Cupsy. Let's imagine instead we've given up on the Chaos engine entirely for this particular combo route, and we want to try and draw into a Yummy name. Send Mind Shuffle, send Light and Darkness Ritual, draw 2. You draw into a Yummy name, but even if you didn't draw into a Yummy name, you would turn them both into Cupsy, and then as your trigger effect, you get to search for Yummy names anyway. And so even if you open only Griffo, that can still get you into your Yummy combos, which, as you've seen, can still get you into Azamina anyway. So all 3 engines all bridge into each other really, really easily. Now, I've seen it said that this deck has no turn 0 interactions. That's not actually true. I'm not saying it's a fantastic turn 0 deck or anything, but it does have some. It just requires combinations of cards rather than individual cards. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass turn and basically act like they've gone first, right? So what we'd do is we would activate Griffo. Griffo sets the Mind Shuffle. Activate the Mind Shuffle, so we're still during their standby phase. The Mind Shuffle is going to grab a Skull Archfiend of Chaos, But then we will send Diabellstar to the graveyard, not Skull Archfiend of Chaos. As that hits the graveyard, because it's during their turn, it has a trigger to discard a card and special summon itself. So we're going to discard the Skull Archfiend of Chaos. Diabellstar hits the field. We're going to go Chainlink 1, Skull Archfiend, because that's what we want to chain block. Sending Light and Darkness Ritual as cost. Chainlink 2, Diabellstar. Now, you're probably not going to use this, I just wanted to show it, because it says send one Diabellstar monster from your hand or face up the field to the graveyard to basically target and negate a card on the field. Anything you set during your turn, because a lot of people will just set a deception, they'll just set a wanted, right? They'll set some kind of follow-up, something that allows them to play the game when it's their turn. But a lot of the things you might set are realistically going to get popped. Sinful Spoils of Betrayal has a second effect in the graveyard. If your opponent tries to activate a card or effect in response to your Diabellstar monster or your Sinful Spoils spell or trap, you can banish this from the graveyard to negate that effect. So adding this to your deck, in all honesty, might make your deck, will make your deck a little bit more bricky. So I'm not saying you should necessarily run this, but it is an option to set if this kind of turn 0 play is something that interests you. So for the sake of argument, rather than setting a deception of the Sinful Spoils, let's just say we were running this, and we set this. Now, what we can add to our hand is a Blackluster Soldier. We won't activate the Magician of Dark Chaos, because it doesn't really do anything during their turn. The Blackluster Soldier does. So now, as they start their play, ignore all that, we've got a Diabellstar on the field. We've got a live Mind Shuffle, because we can put the Diabellstar back into our hand to special summon the Blackluster Soldier and banish one of their cards. So it's a turn 0 banish we've been able to set up. If they don't destroy this, we can send it to the graveyard as cost for our Diabellstar during their turn. Because once it's in the graveyard, if they then try to respond to Diabellstar's effect, then we can banish this from our graveyard to negate the thing that was trying to negate Diabellstar's effect. If they don't pop it, then it's a non-negate during your turn. Realistically, I think people will just set Deception and hope it doesn't get popped. But against decks like Kewl Tune, realistically, it's going to get popped. It will get popped as part of the standard combo line. So I'm almost looking at it thinking, you may as well just play something which will still have value after being popped. Anyway, like I said, it's not amazing turn 0 interaction, but it's not none either. It just requires combinations of cards rather than, single individual cards. And then as far as going second is concerned overall, the best way to do it, because you don't have loads of room for non-engine, is to just play 3 Fuwalos, play 3 Parelia, because Witch can discard the Charmies. So even if you're not drawing multiple, because you've effectively got 6 copies of the Witch, having drawing a Charmy for turn as you start your turn isn't the end of the world anyway, because you'll just pitch it for Diabellstar. So I think for going second, yes, the deck does have some turn 0 interactions, but they are combinations of cards rather than individual ones. Let's have a look at a bit of a kind of skeleton deck list. So what I'm showing you here is the basic skeleton / the must play. You'll notice we're only at 36 cards. Do bear with me. 3 Marshmallow. It's a given, of course. I think Lollipo and I think Cookie, I think they're both one-ofs. Realistically, if you wanted to try and bump up your consistency a little bit more, then you could play additional. Don't really think it's needed though, because if you start adding all the different starters together, we've actually got plenty of one-card starters, but you could bump that up a little bit higher, right? Because that's 6, that's 9, that's 12, that's 15. So if you wanted to get higher than 15 starters, you could put an extra Yummy name or 2 in there. You could go for the Perry Reese map if you wanted to. It's your call. But this for me is the kind of bare minimum in terms of Yummy names you need to be running, these 6 Yummy names. you would play 3 of the Witch because she's full combo, like we showed. I think 1 Deception is fine. Elzat Azamina and your Magician's Souls, these are kind of, don't want to call them bricks, definitely garnets. Don't necessarily want to draw these. Gaze of Timaeus, you cannot play this if you don't want to. You don't have to play Gaze of Timaeus. You could maybe side it in for going first, because Dragoon is the only card in the extra deck, and we will come back to the extra deck. It is the only card in the extra deck. That's optional. So let's, for sake of argument, just take out Gaze of Timaeus because we're wanting to minimize garnets, right? So it's one less garnet. So we've got 3 copies of Wanted because, again, it's full combo. You've got the Surprise in the minion. Azamina Debtors, because I do think in this particular deck, you're not really looping the Hallowed Azamina. You can do, but I just think Debtors is possibly a better option just because it can play around Fula a little bit better, and it helps to set up a more layered end board where you're not passing turn with everything on the field, which I think becomes more important if you're taking the Gaze of Timaeus out. So Light and Darkness Ritual, I think realistically you probably need to play 2 of this. The Crimson Call is a one-off, it's a garnet. You could even say it's a brick, to be honest. But because you're running 6 copies of the Witch, having the occasional card in your deck that doesn't do anything if you open it, or you don't really want to be opening, it's not necessarily the end of the world because you can just pitch it with the Witch anyway. 3 copies of Griffo, because as I've showed, it is full combo anyway. It beats Drawl, it beats Ghost Ogre, fantastic cards. You're playing 3 of those. Mind Shuffle, bit contentious, right? Because if you see Mind Shuffle in your opening hand, then it's just pain. So normally, when it's a card you really don't want to draw, the absolute last thing you want to do is like, oh, I don't want to draw this card, so I'll run another. But the way Griffo and Black Chaos work is that you have to have 2 in your deck. You can play with 1, but you're playing with fire. Wouldn't recommend it. Black Chaos and Skull Archfiend, you can just run 1 each of these. I think if you're wanting a heavier Chaos package, you want to be going with 2 Skull Archfiend of Chaos. Just makes the grind a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to kind of go for those longer term matches and shuffling back resources. But I think for a list like this, you possibly can get away with 1 each of the rituals. And then I'm just showing here the 6 Charmies because I think realistically you don't have loads of room for non-engine. So the non-engine that you do have, it needs to be impactful. So your non-engine might look something like this, the 2 Drolls, or if you wanted to play a clean 40, the Pirellia in the side, you've got the Ashes in the main, or if you wanted to play 42, just to drown out some of the garnets, you might play a list that looks a little bit like this. I think Pirellia going into this format is actually really good. I think we're going to start seeing 3 Fua, 3 Pirellia in a lot of people's main decks. With a massive disclaimer, by the way, before I get raked in the comments, decks like this can just pitch the Charmies, and that's the important disclaimer really. Decks like this can just pitch the Charmies, and I think because of that, the fact there's a few garnets isn't the end of the world, because you've effectively got 6 cards in your deck that want to discard cards in order to play the game. Now, one of the things people talk about with Charmies sometimes is they'll say, oh, but the best decks can just make a half board under a Charmy, which makes them worthless. And I can understand why people would say that, but I think they're wrong, respectfully, because, hear me out, what would you rather play second into? A half board or a full board? So if I drop a Fubalos and they make a half board, giving me 1 draw, then pass turn, and then thinking, oh, I still put up 4 interactions, only giving 1 draw. Go me, what a fool, thinking Fubalos would do anything. It's like, well, would you rather play into 4 interactions or 8? Like, I don't know about you, I would rather play into 4. So I don't think the Charmies are ever useless. People ending on a half board and passing turn on a half board is always preferable, as far as I'm concerned, to them passing turn on, floodgates, being backed up by 7, 8 interactions, multiple negates. If they make a half board and give me 1 draw, I'll take that any day. I honestly would take that any day. And I think Pirellia is actually becoming a bit of an unsung hero in this next format, or will be an unsung hero in this next format. Droll, obviously super impactful card. If you wanted to play a clean 40, you might do something like this, right? Play them in the side. Ash Blossom in a deck like this, I'm going to be honest, Ash Blossom is a card that you'd even consider siding. And you just play it as a additional copy of Called By if you go in first. This isn't the kind of deck where you're going to try and choke them out by throwing loads and loads of hand traps at them. I think the way this deck goes second, yes, there's that occasional cute little turn 0 play I showed you, but realistically, you're either going to drop a Charmy and encourage them to end on a half board, which makes your life much easier in terms of trying to break it. And the Chaos deck is actually pretty good at coming second. Drop a Droll, which can be devastating against certain decks. But realistically, if you open just an Ash, it doesn't do anything going second. Like, it just doesn't do anything. And you will wish you would have instead opened a Fuma or a Pirellia or a Droll, because they will do something. Whereas an Ash is just hand looping yourself for absolutely no reason. So there's an argument to actually have Ash in the side for when you go first. But it's not a terrible thing to have it in your main deck for in case you win the dice roll. Moving on to the extra deck, every single one of these cards is unironically non-negotiable, with the exception of Little Knight. There's a conversation around Little Knight. If you wanted to take out Dragoon, I just like Dragoon, right? I think it's a cool card. I always play Dragoon if I can, but I appreciate people might want to take out the Gaze of Timaeus because it's a bricky card, and we're already including in Garnets, right? But this, like Crimson Call, is just a full-on brick. So if you wanted to remove one of them and take out the Dragoon, yeah, completely understand it. I'm not mad at it, because that then allows you to set up an additional card in here, which honestly you probably go for an IP Masquerena. It makes sense, but that is a flex spot if there's another card you wanted to put in there. All the rest of them, and I do mean every single one of them, are absolutely non-negotiable. Very, very tight extra deck, but as you go through, and obviously just think of the combo lines I just showed you, each and every one of these cards, there's a good reason why they're in there. Yeah, that is a example deck list of what you might want to put together if you want to play this deck at locals. So just my closing thoughts on all of this. The Chaos deck, as a pure deck, doesn't do enough. I don't think pure Chaos does enough. If you look at the OCG lists, the OCG doesn't think pure Chaos does enough either, right? All the Chaos decks you've seen topping in the OCG, they're mixing it with other engines. Branded Chaos, or branded ROLAD, was the more popular version in the OCG for a while. And then in recent times, Dark Magician Chaos, with the new cards that are coming in the Overframe set in September, they actually became the more popular way in recent months of playing the Chaos deck. It does need, I don't really think it's up for debate, to be honest. It needs an additional engine. Which engine that is, the ratios we include, I think a lot of that is up for debate, and it'll be interesting over the coming weeks, once people get their hands on the physical cards, as to what people end up settling on. But ultimately, I think this is a deck that requires a supporting engine, and I'm not necessarily throwing my hat into the ring and saying, this is it, this is the best way of playing the deck. It's a way of playing the deck. It's a very fun, very consistent, very difficult to hand trap way of playing the deck. And if you're somebody who has enjoyed Yummy in previous formats, wants to try out the new Chaos cards, and was looking for an engine to kind of include with those Chaos cards, I think you can certainly do a lot worse than what I've just showed you, right? Take it for a spin at locals, see how it feels. You don't even need to tell people you got it from a YouTube video. You can just say you've got an absolutely massive galaxy brain. You came up with it yourself, right? I won't judge you, it's fine. And if you do, the only thing I would ask, right, actually, if you do take this to locals and you enjoy it, if you do take this to locals and you end up winning locals, right, consider dropping a comment. If you take this for a spin, let me know how it feels. How did you get on with it? Do you like it? I'm getting a bit more serious about content creation as well. I'm finding myself with a bit more free time than I've had previously. And so I actually have an aim of reaching 2,000 subscribers before the Chaos Origins format comes to a close. So that's basically in between now and September. So I've got a few months to get there. If you've made it this far and you're not yet a subscriber, if you feel like I might have earned your subscription, please do consider pressing the button. If you're already a subscriber, thanks for coming by again. Appreciate you all, and hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.